Hello, great to have your company on Racing360, where we preview the Group 1 July Cup meeting at Newmarket. Joining me on the show, Jerry Green and David Morgan. How are you both?
Pretty good. All right.
Always a great meeting. 12 runners to go to the post in this sprint feature this year, including the recent King's Stand Stakes winner.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good race. The form of this in recent years hasn't been brilliant. It's not always a wonderful race. It's a leg of the Global Sprint Challenge, but I think we can make a case for 4 or 5 horses in this race. Half of the field I could discount, but yeah, good betting angles I would think, Dave.
Definitely. It looks a really good race. You've got a few horses here coming from Royal Ascot in really good form, so yeah, it's a serious race.
David, in your travels as a racing writer throughout the UK, you've no doubt attended a few July Cup meetings?
Yeah, quite a few down the years. It's a great meeting. It's a real test of the track. It's a good, big, strong galloping track. You need a good, strong horse to see out the 6 furlongs because you've got that quite steep climb to the finish, undulating track.
And the unique nature of the course does set the tone for form analysis, doesn't it? It takes a certain type of horse.
It does, yeah, and in that sort of testing dimensions, it would be similar to Ascot as well. The Aussie horse Sham Express didn't appear to cope with that very well in Royal Ascot that time as well. So this is a similar proposition for him, so it might be difficult. But Shay, the other foreign visitor, I think he saw it out fairly well at Ascot. Probably drawn at the wrong part of the track, and he'll probably be the favourite.
Have a good look at the July Cup field shortly. You'll see that race plus 6 other events from Newmarket in the UK tomorrow night. Live here in Hong Kong, our simulcast begins at 5 minutes after 9 with a 3-year-old handicap event followed by the Superlative Stakes. The feature race, the July Cup, scheduled for 10 minutes to 11 tomorrow evening. And a bit of 2-year-old racing to look forward to as well, Jerry. That will be tricky.
Yeah, well, if you find 4-runner races and 5-runner races tricky, well, you're in the wrong game. So they're 2-year-olds. The last race that's a bit more reasonable and probably a bit more of a scope to make a few bob, hopefully.
Okay, we'll talk about that a little later. So the July Cup field, as I mentioned, 12 horses will go to the post tomorrow night in this 1200 metre Group 1 contest, including Hamzar, Havelock, Krypton Factor, Lethal Force, Sham Express, Shay, the South African trained horse, Slade Power, Society Rock, Soul Power, Sovereign Debt, Gale Force 10 and Zanetto. We've also got for you some international overseas indicative prices for you to have a look at, and the current favourite $4.50 there, Shay. Do you agree with the way they framed this market?
Reasonably, yeah. I think you'll be finding that Shay will be shorter here than that. I'd imagine he'd be something like $3, 3.2. They know the horse well here. He's won on the Dubai prep card. He won World Cup night, ran second at Royal Ascot, so he's the obvious one. I think that they're very mad on Ryan Moore here. He's well under the odds. So I think with that $7, $8 you see here, be a good deal shorter, I'd imagine.
Well,
that's on Gale Force 10.
The reason why Shay has come up as the favourite in what is an open betting race for the July Cup. He was gallant, wasn't he, in the recent King's Stand Stakes?
Yeah, very good run. This was won by Soul Power, who sort of comes along towards the inside rail at the finish, ridden very patiently by Johnny Murtagh. Shay's towards the far side as well, yellow cap. He's about to sort of hit the front dish fairly soon. But the argument this day was that the bias was for horses on the near side, Dave.
Yeah, I think there was a definite bias this day. Soul Power pulls out here and he gets this great run on what seemed to be a faster strip of ground. And he's done it really well, but I think Shay probably was disadvantaged.
He's been mugged, really. I think most have thought he had that was a certainty. And it's not like he got to the front too soon or his horse idled or anything like that. It was a great ride. He's just, as Dave said, just a slightly swifter part of the track on the near side on the day.
And David, since then he's had a bit more time to acclimatise to his new environment, having come across it from Dubai. He didn't look ready enough to me going into the King's Stand. He probably needed a few more days, didn't he?
And that's what the trainer said. Mike de Kock said that he's benefited from these extra few weeks. And I think he's, given that, I think he's worth looking at to turn the form around with Soul Power, definitely. I think that'll help him that he's been working at Newmarket too. He's got used to the environment there, so yeah, I think Shay's got a huge chance.
Trainer is brilliant as well. He's very, very good. You'd always respect him. Soul Power, even it looked like he was, seeing out the 5 furlongs there pretty strongly, and it's possible that he can cope a little bit with 6 furlongs. But they've always maintained, isn't it, that 1,000 metres fast ground, that's his go. And
that's his game, yeah. That's what he's always been good at. He's been found out over 6 previously. This stiff climb to the finish, I think, will find Soul Power out.
One of the also-rans in the King's Stand was the Australian-trained horse Sham Express, officially finishing 9th. I thought it was a disappointing performance.
I expected better. You travel all that distance, and they had the form, and you had the form from the Newmarket handicap as well to stack up. That's over 6 furlongs. You could possibly argue that maybe he wanted further. It happened a little bit too quick for him, or was it the contours of the track? We don't know. But you'd have hoped for better, and I think they're just having a crack at this because they're there, and they may as well just give it a whirl. But you know, that's not to say he couldn't be 3rd or 4th, but I'd be surprised if he won in that form. How
much do we take into account the form out of the Diamond Jubilee Stakes, which was won by Lethal Force?
He's done well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think he did nothing wrong. Lethal Force is a progressive 4-year-old sprinter, decent 2-year-old, good 3-year-old, and he's progressed and got stronger. People say he got an easy lead, but the fact is they weren't really catching him. I know that the seconds closed on him, but Lethal Force is holding him all the way to the line.
I think he's only improving as well. Just you know, not that many runs in the clock. He's only 4. I mean, he's always sort of 2-3 lengths in front there the last little bit. I can't see why he can't do that again. If he does, Quinella chance easy.
Okay, finishing behind him, Society Rock, Krypton Factor and Slade Power.
He ran well, Krypton Factor. He's very consistent actually for a horse who's considered more of a Dubai animal. He's been pretty good there at Ascot of late. This track we shall see. Society Rock, they would say that that's his best course and distance, 1,200 metres at Ascot. However, he's won Group 1s at other tracks, so genuine horse. I've got to have him in my top 4.
Okay.
With Krypton Factor, I think it's worth noting that they missed Singapore this year to go to England, and the trainer said that he had an issue in Dubai. There was a foot problem, I believe, and he's another one. He thinks his horse will come on a lot for being in England for the extra few weeks.
Luke Morris taking the ride on Krypton Factor. Kieran Fallon used to be the regular rider there as well, but Kieran's looked elsewhere for Society Rock.
He's gone with Society Rock, and he's quite confident from reading what Kieran's been saying.
Okay, so that's a lead in itself, isn't it?
Possibly, yeah. But it's a good race. I mean, Joe, there's another horse. There's number 7, Slade Power from Ireland, also stablemate of Soul Power. He's a horse, possibly could be. I think he's a Group 1 horse. If not now, but very soon. His time will come.
So it's an interesting mix of horses lining up in the July Cup this year. Shay Shay is the superstar in the making, and Lethal Force, again, a horse that will continue to step up to the plate.
There's one we haven't touched on, Joe. We should really mention it. And this horse will be putting on top is number 11, Gale Force 10, 3-year-old trained by Aidan O'Brien. Form out of the Irish Guineas is excellent. He was 2nd in that. And when this is him here, you win in the Jersey Stakes. Now he gets to the front possibly a little bit early, Joseph O'Brien, but God, does this horse battle back. He looked headed, and this was over 7, so back and trip. He will be strong, and he'll be really finding his burst the last 50 metres. Very progressive, and the form is really good out of the Irish Guineas. 2 Group 1ers in that since.
Well, if you look at the second came out and won yesterday at Newmarket, won a listed race, and he had good juvenile form as well.
He's beaten there, isn't he? Look at him when he gets back, you know.
Back, he battles. My one concern is that is he a 6-furlong horse? Has he got that real pure class speed against these horses? There's no doubt he's got the class.
He's got form of doing this before, O'Brien. If you go back maybe 9-10 years ago, he'd done it with Mozart and Stravinsky, horses who ran well in the same race and came back as well. So they have that gauge, you know. And I think he has the class to do it, and he gets the weight allowances as well.
Very tenacious though on the line, wasn't he?
Very hardy, wasn't he? Yeah. Ryan Moore takes over too.
There's a horse that's a real shot in the dark at the top, Hamza, Kevin Ryan. He's a progressive handicapper. He's got a little bit to find, but he beat a horse called Herat, who runs at Ascot just before the July Cup. And Herat ran 6th at Ascot in the Group 1. So it's that horse, it wouldn't be surprising to see him step up a little bit and maybe get amongst them.
You get a huge price about him,
You get a big price, very big price about him.
Okay.
So Lethal Force aiming to become the first horse since Star Spangled Banner to win the Jubilee Stakes and go on to win the July Cup.
Yeah, that's true. Star Spangled Banner, you know, they tried him at stud and then it didn't work out. He's been running recently again, not the same animal. But looking at it over the years, it's not been, you know, a lot of those horses haven't really stacked up superbly, particularly around this part of the world. They wouldn't get a whole lot of respect. Oasis Dream won it in 2003. That was a horse that beat Choisir. Oasis Dream is the sire of one of the runners here. That will be Gale Force 10, the one I've tipped on top. So yeah, it's a great race though, you know, leg of the Global Sprint Challenge, and after this it will move along to the Japanese legs in the autumn.
So generally horses that perform well at the Royal Ascot Carnival will perform well here
Solid
in the July
guide,
Cup.
yeah.
Very
Much.
Okay. Any other comments before we move on?
I'd be putting 5 or 6 of them into a tiers.
Yeah.
You're skirting very wide here, aren't you?
Well, 5 anyhow. Maybe Dave would stick with the top one.
Yeah, it's pretty tight. I think stick with the Group 1 form and you'll be safe.
But Jerry, you've gone with what you've dubbed a progressive horse in Gale Force 10.
Very much so. I think it's a Group 1 horse, if not now, very soon. And yeah, hopefully the price will hold up. I think we saw the quote there, 7 or 8 to 1 or so. I don't think he'll get that tomorrow. Last week he was 12 to 1 in England, but he's got the profile for me.
Okay, and David, you and I agree that Shay was excellent in the King's Stand Stakes, and he's ready for the July Cup.
I mean, it's a bit obvious to pick him, but the form's there, you can't argue with it. Lethal Force as well, I think Shay will come. Lethal Force will set the pace. Shay will just come and do him, and I expect a big run from Krypton Factor.
Be a great achievement for South Africa too if Shay can win.
It would be, yeah. They've have they had a winner there before? JJ the jet plane tried and didn't quite get there as far as I know. So
I think he was 3rd.
Yeah. But the trainer is gifted. He's very, very good, and he has to be respected.
So it will be history-making if Shay can become the first South African trained horse to win the July Cup. What about last year's winner? It was highly impressive, wasn't it? The performance of Mason to win the race by 5 lengths, son of Invincible Spirit, who was retired to stud last year after running on Arc Day, 2nd in the Prix de l'Abbé.
Yeah, the race though, it was an absolute deluge, and no horse could cope with the ground, and nothing else did. He was 25 to 1, I think, or even bigger. I
mean, he's obviously a talented horse, but yeah, the ground was a huge factor. And if you look at the speed they were travelling, it's noticeable that in the last furlong they decelerate markedly. I think he was down to 30 miles per hour, 29 miles per hour at the wire. Very, very different conditions there tomorrow as well. They're basking in unusual heat in England and that part of the world at the moment. 30-degree temperatures, they're not sure what to do with it, so yeah, it's a stark contrast to last year. It is, very much so, yeah. It's interesting sometimes when you get fast ground at Newmarket to pay attention to earlier races, because sometimes there's a fast strip on the stand-side rail, so that's worth looking at. Okay. As we go to a break on Racing360, let's review the performance of Mason to win the July Cup last year by a big margin, defying his big price.
Still restless. They're off and racing. Society Rock jumped out okay. If anything missed the start, it was Dandy Boy. And in the early stages, Reply and Maysun. Maysun 4 to 5 lengths clear. They're not going to get anywhere near Maysun. The Checker Society Rock and Hortensia and Hawkeye the New will head the chase. But Darley, July Cup glory for Maysun, Richard Fahy and Paul Hannigan.